afternoon. Thank you so much for staying with 95.1 Nigeria Info. That incredible song was by Beyonce from Fighting Temptation. You've seen it, yeah? It's a painfully old movie, not like old from before time, but it's there. From when was Fighting Temptation done? I can't recall, but I know I saw it some time back. And then you listen to, I think, Elton John and Dua Lipa with Cold Heart played before that. And I had to just check up on my guest to know where my guest is at the moment. Sometimes your car can act up. You think he's in 100 and he springs a surprise at you. But she's caught an e-hailing taxi and will be here any minute now. Kemi Yusufu will be joining us on the roundtable today to look at some of the big stories driving conversation. Good afternoon and welcome to Hard Facts on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Your passionate, trustworthy, and conversational radio. We're broadcasting live from the city of Abuja, and I'm excited to be here. I'll be here from now to 7, and looking at the lineup of programming that I have, it is going to be a packed show, but we're going to have a great conversation nonetheless. How are you doing, though? I know water is expensive now, bottled or sachet or whatever, but I hope you're keeping hydrated, and I'm sure Itodo mentioned to you in the morning to stay hydrated. No matter how water costs rich, man must drink water. You understand? You need water for life. So please stay as hydrated as possible because the weather is hot and, you're sweating more. Moisture is leaving your body. You don't want to be walking one afternoon and next thing you start to feel woozy and then you faint. And then the next thing will say, cost of living crisis made this man faint. The economy struck again and the man fainted. They will not know that you were not just drinking enough water. So please stay hydrated. The hunger matter, maybe I'll not be able to address it now, but I'm glad a lot of people are throwing things together. Maybe around Easter, take this amount of money and give away. I'm like, yeah, thank you very much. Oh, take this thing and give away. Like, thank you very much. So there'll be some interesting giveaways to be done when we're close to Easter period. Thanks to all the generous donors. And I'm sure more will come. So we look forward to that season. My name is Kimberly Nwachukwu. Call me Kimberly, the Digital Oracle, OTF, the Fellow, Madam Speaker, or Chanya One of Nigeria Info. And I will say yes to them all. We'll start off with the roundtable, looking at some of the big stories driving conversation in the country. And like I mentioned, Kemi Yusufu, a journalist, a gender advocate, will also be joining me in the studio to look at some of the stories we have lined up. And then would have amazing guests join me back to back. I see quite a lot of them coming in for some quick conversations, and would make our time as much as possible to talk about the cost of living also during the course of the program. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook is at Nigeria Info Abuja. YouTube is at Nigeria Info Abuja. You can reach us on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Abuja and Twitter at Nigeria Info ABJ. Our phone numbers are 0700 951 0000 or 0809 5974869 or 0809 9930137. Now, I'm buying time for my guest to join me in the studio. The River State Governor, Fubara, he was on TV, had so much to say and talking about for peace sake, he can just resign his office just to have peace, given that, good luck Ebele vibe, no blood is what my political ambition kind of vibe and all of that. But he said that it's something that he's willing to do for peace sake in the state. And it got me thinking, as in, okay, it's one thing to say that you can, is another thing to actually get it on. Because one of the most difficult things to achieve in this country is for public office holders to say, you know what, I'm done for peace sake. It's difficult. They hold on to it like their lives depend on it. So when Governor Siminalai Fubara said this, it got a lot of people's attention and it's trending on social, says that he's willing and ready to give up his office for peace to reign in Rivers State because no sacrifice will be too big to achieve that. He said it during an exclusive interview with AIT, even as he believes that Rivers State is bigger than anybody, including himself. And further said that he would always continue to maintain his unwavering love for peace and respect for the rule of law and justice. And it is not because I want to gain any favor from anyone. My interest and love for our dear state is genuine. No sacrifice would be too big for me to pay for the success of this administration. And the reason is very simple. It is not political love. I am not trying to say I want to be one man that will be there to decide the fate of all, but let Rivers State remain. He has remained resilient even in the face of provocation and deliberate attempt to cripple his administration or render Rivers State ungovernable by way of sabotage and impeachment plot, and has also had to contend with the former governor of Rivers State, Yusufu, who is now the minister of the FCT. You know about the trouble between Fubara and his predecessor. It's well documented, and the battle almost led to the proposed impeachment of the former. And it feels like it's not Uhuru yet, that underlying intention is still pretty much there. But then really it will be the day where you see an elected official say, for peace sake, I'm going to step aside. Because we see, it feels like, that level of desperation during an election, or we see that level of lobbying and intense political gathering when an appointment is going to be made. I recall while we're waiting for the appointment of ministers, and the president took a trip to France. And people are like, oh, why can't he go to Abuja somewhere? And I'm like, yeah, people will be coming all over him because of one appointment. And so he had to go to France. It didn't stop people from going to France, did it? They went there, and whatever it is that needed to be done was done. Home abroad, it will happen. So we see people rush. We see people put themselves out there. It's on very rare occasion you hear, oh, this person was appointed and he turned the appointment down. We can hear that once in a while with certain diplomats, with certain, what do we call them, technocrats. But with full-blown politicians, refresh my memory if we've had one in recent history that says, for peace sake, I'm going to leave the... Well, aside from Goodluck Jonathan, who apparently became so unpopular at the twilight of his administration that a lot of people wanted him out because they believed that he wasn't effectively and efficiently managing the country. But so far, so good. Can't recall anyone who's decided to leave for peace sake. So let's hope peace reigns in the state without him having to resign anyway. So while I was speaking, my guest, Walter Way in, joining us on the roundtable is Kemi Yusufu. I am excited to have you join us in the studio. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm a bit late because I had some...
Sorry for the trouble.
I'm sorry about that, yeah.
We understand these things happen, and I'm glad that in spite of it, that you're able to make it to the studio.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Somebody else will
Thanks for having me. I'm so nearby, so...
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I just heard off on the light note talking about Fubara, the governor of Rivers State, who said, for peace sake, he can even step aside from office just for peace in the state. And wondering if we've seen that in recent history where particularly those ones who are politically exposed individuals or politicians to say, oh, for the peace of Nigeria, for the peace of my state, I'm going to step back from here. I'm not going to be involved. I'm not going to run for office. Or if you get elected and say, okay, there's so much tension building up, I'm going to step aside for that peace sake. It's not a common practice in Nigeria, is it?
Yeah, even he's saying that is not quite common. It's very rare.
Yeah, even saying it.
So saying it is rare. So it's quite a novel statement from a governor of a very wealthy and powerful state like Rivers State. So
we should give him some credit for even
saying it, for being that humble. We've seen his predecessors in that seat. They are not exactly the most humble governors in Nigeria. So for a Fubara to even say that, it's a novel kind of talk. We've never heard that kind of thing before.
All right. So yes, well, it's not something we've actually heard. So congratulations to him. All right, let's get to looking at some of the stories we have penned down for the roundtable. Starting off with the NLC and their call for a review of the minimum wage, which have been on for a while, threatening a number of strike action. Some of them, they last 24 hours, and then government will call them back to the roundtable, renegotiate, buy some time, and then they go back and threaten again. But this time around, the NLC is saying, at first they said they were demanding 794,000 minimum wage for workers. That's the new national minimum wage for workers. This time they were specific about the southwestern geopolitical zone. And then they slash it down to 500,000 naira. That there are strong indications that organized labor will push for 500,000 as the minimum wage as the zonal public hearing on the new wage structure begins today. In Lagos, Kano, Enugu, Akwa Ibom, Adamawa, and Abuja. The president of the NLC, Joe Ajero, in an interview recently, had stated that if the ongoing inflation continues, organized labor might push for a new minimum wage of 1 million naira for Nigerian workers. However, a top official of the NLC who confirmed to the Punch Thursday said based on proposals submitted by state chapters to the Congress headquarters, the organized labor might push for 500,000 naira today. So it's a probability level as to the push. But let's look at the visibility level of this push in the first instance. 500K. That is not minimum wage anymore because people who are not even on the minimum wage level do not even earn this.
It's quite unrealistic. And like you said, it's not feasible. It's simple and short. It's not even something that we have to spend so much time to talk about. Because even the 30,000, how many states are paying? How many local governments, LGAs are paying? So when you, it's good. Among those, I agree that there should be a national minimum wage. It should be negotiated at national level. But and that's where being realistic comes in. We have to be realistic as NLC, and that figure. How many people can pay? Even the federal government is struggled at some point to pay salaries. We know how even at December we heard civil servants murmuring about the late payment of their salary. So even at this much lower figure, federal government is struggling. What we now say about states and the local governments, and if Labour even wants to market this idea, persuade the private sector, you can't put it at 500,000 because if Labour really wants to, which I think they should do more, to cover Nigerians beyond the formal, beyond government workers, they should be able to try their best to galvanize the private sector because that's where really jobs should be created and jobs are being created on a daily basis. So they should be able to put it at a figure that they can even coerce and then lobby the private sector to also buy into it. So that 500,000 is very realistic, and to even worsen the inflation, although they will tell you it's an old argument, but that's the fact. When there's too much naira, chasing too few goods.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that you brought that dimension in because you would expect them to factor on quite a lot of things.
Yes, but they're talking from just their own narrow perspective, and it's not supposed to be that way.
And you also look at the ripple effect, like you pointed out. I mean, you have to also put into perspective the private sector. How many people are employed by the government anyways in the state? Because half the time when the NLC make this push, they think about those who work with the public service. And you want to look at what the implication would mean for small businesses, for small companies who have at least 10 and above and are required to implement the minimum wage, if they can afford to carry the weight of that in the first instance, if we're going to have that way. It might even lead to some massive job cuts.
Even I didn't want to bring it up because Labour does not want to hear about it. We're talking about implementing the Oransaye report. Yeah. And some of us are saying you can implement the report, but with a human face. And to me, any government that is serious, I'm very happy that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown the guts to want to implement that report. But I think it needs to be updated. There's a committee that's set up. That committee should update. The report is a bit old. Yeah. There are some aspects I don't personally agree with as a journalist. Like when you talk about taking back the National Film and Video Census Board, it might not be important to some other people, but it's important to me because we underestimate the soft power that we have, that film, music, creative writing, the whole, creative industry has brought us. I feel that. Okay,
let's take that feeling after this very quick commercial break.
Okay.
Stay with us.
Abuja spontaneous comedian Chooks the General presents the biggest Mother's Day show in Abuja. Generally speaking, with Chooks the General. Performances by Ali Baba, AY, Godon, Akpororo, Funny Bones, Brother Shaggy, and your host, Charles Okocha.
Mama, you're phenomenal. I love you. That's my phenomenal mama.
Venue, Transco Hilton, Abuja. Date, Mother's Day, Sunday, March 10th. Time, 6 p.m. Gate fee, regular 7K, VIP 20K, seat on table 100K, gold table of 10, 1 million naira. Premium table of 10, 2 million naira. Tickets available at Silverbed Cinemas and Transco Hilton, Abuja. Discounted tickets available online at apitix.com. That is APITIX.com. For table bookings and more info, please call 0817-507-5000. Media partner, Nigeria Info FM.
This show na Mother's Day, so carry your mother, wife, sister, girlfriend, or even your landlady come.
Let's talk about the biggest conversations made of trustworthy ideas passionately connected to everyone. Let's talk on Nigeria Info 95.1 Abuja.
Welcome back to Hard Facts.
This is Hard Facts. Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Thank you so much for your time with us. We're still pretty much on the roundtable. Kemi Yusufu is here, our guest analyst. So you were talking about how it affects you. Apparently, your...
Yes, I was talking about the implementing the Orange report, and I was saying that I'm probably one of the few journalists or public affairs analysts who believes in the very minute aspect of it that's saying you don't take, it needs to be updated, and they don't take National Film and Video Censors Board back to the ministry where they are under a PAMSEC, some directors, because we are underestimating the soft power that film, music, theater, sports has brought to Nigeria. So I believe that the Film and Video Censors Board should be one, on its own, solid unit that can take decisions as quickly as possible instead of that red tapeism in the main ministry. Yeah. So looking at the Orange report, talking about a lot of people are already wondering, will it be implemented without some people losing their jobs? When you merge parastatals, there can't be two directors of DFA, there can't be two deputy directors, there can't be, things like that. So I've looked at it in my own little perspective. I don't know what the committee is going to come up with. It's also ties to the issue of minimum wage, because for me, in the long run, government should have like a short-term, medium-term, long-term plan of how to trim the civil service into a smaller, more effective, better staffed, better trained partner in development or foundation, because they're the foundation of Nigeria, because they implement government policy and come up with as many. So that when you're talking about minimum, you can pay better, fewer people who are better equipped, and then the still division of labor, but in a more effective way. So labor, these are things that if labor keeps insisting on certain figures and unrealistic, then government might also have to go to the extreme end to be able to meet their demands, because you can't pay the numbers they have at 500,000 at the minimum. Then how much will you pay those the director cadre, or the other senior civil servants if you're paying the lowest in the cadre,
Indeed.
500,000.
At this point in time, definitely not realistic. And given the fact that the budget is saying 24 states cannot pay salaries without federal government allocation, it means that that one is the tall order, that at least 25 states of the federation will not be able to pay workers' salaries, something as basic as that this year, without having to wait for federal allocation from the central government, according to reports. Only 11 out of 36 state government of the federation can independently pay their workers' salaries without depending on FAC, according to an analysis of state government approved budget for the 2024 fiscal year. The state with robust internal revenue, Lagos, Kano, Anambra, Enugu, Edo, Imo, Kwara, Kaduna, Osun, Ogun, and Zamfara state can afford to pay if they don't get FAC allocation. Every other state will be in trouble. So 500,000 naira.
It's quite very, very unrealistic.
Yes.
It's impossible. It's an impossibility.
Indeed. Well, let's move on to another story. Well, this one is possible, but how you manage it is also something to look at. And recent time, there's been a lot of cry of hunger in the land, food insecurity. We've seen people, even in the federal capital, break into warehouse, FCDA warehouse, and remove foods from there. We've heard report of a truck that was parked and people jumped it and removed truck. Other parts of the country, we've also heard of people invading certain places. I heard one report, a man stopped to pray and then they removed the noodles or the spaghettis that he had in his truck. So it's evident that a lot is happening in the country. And in response to that, I know that the president did tell the direct customs that every food confiscated should be sold at a subsidized price to the needy, and if it's the foreign imported one, resell to the local market. The distribution of food items and other palliatives also would start off in the 6 area councils of the FCT by next week. The Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmood, gave the indication while addressing stakeholders following a presidential directive. He said the exercise will be handled by the National Emergency Management Agency, and called on all stakeholders, especially chairmen of area councils, to ensure that their palliative are distributed seamlessly in line with presidential directive. The minister also directed the FCT mandate agriculture, Secretary of Agriculture and Rural Development Secretariat to look for a befitting warehouse within 72 hours for safekeeping of the grain. I can't blame them for that because we have palliative hunters on the prowl right now. According to her, yesterday we received this letter from the presidency through NEMA, and we were at Gwagwa where our warehouse was attacked by some youth in the area, and we were there to cut away. However, God Almighty has given us a solution through Mr. President, and instruction has been given: distribute as much grain, go to the 6 area councils and make sure you give them as much food as possible. And I'm thinking, how long can we sustain this? How much would you give people to addressing it? It's a short-term fix. What do you make of it, really?
Well, I think it's been called palliative, even though some of us have a problem with that word, because palliative care in strict medical sense is actually for people who probably will not recover. It's for people who are, the end stage. So we always wonder, are you giving people palliative so that they can now take an exit? So I think it's like dressing up the wound that probably needs surgery to properly heal. But if you don't do this, there might still be complaints that government did nothing, to ameliorate the suffering of people. But like you said initially when we were introducing this topic, it must be done in a very transparent and accountable way. And the FCT might use this opportunity to improve maybe its register of people who are in need, of this kind of aid, and then take a step forward. Because we have somebody that is a former governor now of Rivers State as FCT minister, so he probably can also borrow a leaf from what he did, because although we didn't hear much about his poverty alleviation and youth empowerment schemes, we heard much about his bridges and structures. It's time FCT too is people look at FCT with one kind of eye, like it's all millionaires are here, but it's not true. There are enough FCTs that most of them you see a rich man's area, you see one slum nearby where there are staffs.
There's a lot of urban poverty.
Abuja has quite a number of slums, compared to what a lot of people don't really take cognizance of. So after giving this palliative, a lot of states too are going the extra mile. Like Niger nearby here has bought tractors, is already boasting that they're going to be able to harvest so thousands metric tons of grain by next year. Yeah. So FCT should stop seeing itself as one kind of cosmetic territory. They also have to do what other people are doing in different. So how do you do about youth empowerment going forward? How do you empower women? Do you set targets that in the next 2-3 years we should produce so quantity of yam? And luckily, the indigenes of FCT, might put it that way, are farmers. So why can't you galvanize them? And even the FCT, the Federal Civil Service rule says that you can own a little farm. So you can encourage civil servants, like, okay, let's help you. I've seen some people farming with cement bags.
I think that's the latest.
So that you can have a little farm. So find a way to galvanize that beyond these palliatives. How can you help the FCT become like other states where they are trying their best to galvanize women, youth especially, into farming that they can use to feed their family and then also sell some, and then even try your best to create a complete line of the farming line where there are even people involved in marketing, uptakers, the complete line of agro economics line in the FCT. Beyond that, and also other forms of youth empowerment. There are a lot of young people in Abuja who have good ideas, even for small scale business. Look for them, authenticate them, and also support them. I need to mention one thing is that having reported National Assembly for a very long time, I'm not comfortable with the way it seems as if the FCT minister is playing politics with, National Assembly members, especially the only senator we have. I am someone that strongly believes, I've always argued in almost every intervention, that whatever you're doing, you need to involve members of National Assembly and then the State House of Assembly, because they are very close to the people. So it doesn't take anything. I think the minister should also involve, for all this kind of intervention that will ameliorate people's suffering, empower people, involve National Assembly members. Let them give you their own feedback. They could also give you, this Nigeria, let's be blunt, they can also give you names. I don't know any of them, but I'm not hoping to, by God's grace, benefit from it. I don't know anybody else that can, but I think he also needs to do it in the whole. And that one way of doing it in a holistic manner is talking to people who were elected. He was appointed. He should talk to those who were elected by FCT residents.
So to even achieving this, there needs to be that synergy, that collaboration.
To me, there needs to be that synergy, because, it's almost, when was the other time that I read somewhere the senator was saying, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, Senator Ireti Kimberly has been one vocal person that said he's not just being cooperating with them.
And I'll say it, like there was a time, I don't want to mention it, there was a minister who came to the National Assembly and they were doing an employment program. Festus Kiyamo, when he was doing substitute labor, And National Assembly was very offended and saying, you didn't even
carry us along.
And we are representative of people. And I was among the people that said he should, because he can't be in Abuja and know what's happening in my federal constituency. You cannot be in Abuja, no matter how intelligent he is, and know what's happening.
Given that was to cover the 700
Thank you. So you're supposed to even call senators, honorable members who represent them and say, what is your opinion? What's the best way to treat your people? What kind of job? I'm tell you, my people are more farmers. Give them this. If you can't give them the wrong things, it doesn't work, and federal government money would have been wasted. So, for almost every intervention, I believe that it should involve the legislative arm, and the FCT coincidentally is by law legislated on by National Assembly, and then you have a senator and then House of Members. Talk to them.
Now, one thing that I don't know if we've taken stock of how much has been disbursed so far for all of the palliative and the intervention. Coupled the ones that have been given to states and whatever it is the federal government is doing. I mean, because some people want to put it on a scale to weighing it. You remove subsidy, and we've seen the ripple effect of the removal of subsidy and how it's affecting the lifestyle. I mean, yesterday, man was talking about the number of businesses that have closed, manufacturing companies, the number that are so weakened that they've cut down significantly on their staff strength. And on the other hand, you don't want to compare it with the interventions, the palliatives, the effect, the whatever policy to cushion the effect on that, to see if it's not penny wise pound foolish to say you remove one thing and yet it's costing us so much to addressing the effects of that removal, that policy. I don't know. I haven't seen any report that is very detailed enough to say how much has been put out in terms of palliative so far by government and by state also.
I'm one of those, like, I agree with you when you were saying, I thought about it, that we have done something like Shopee. But I mean, the jury is still out about the success of such programs where you can say, oh, this is the money we've saved, and this is what we invested it in. Because it seems that, even for me, who for many years always argued, wrote, debated, and said we should give more power to the state, remove items from exclusive list, give more power to let states get more funding. Now that the states are getting more funding, we are not hearing anything from them.
Because the states have actually received a lot.
As much as 50% more, some of them.
But people will tell you that the value of what they've received has deteriorated because the naira has depreciated in value.
That's the factor of the argument, but it's not all of the argument.
Okay.
Because if you make effort, no matter what, like, if you make effort, like, for example, just like me as an individual, if I go to the market with 10,000, what it could buy 10 years ago, but I will still buy something.
True.
If it's just a bag of rice, or maybe like a 5 kg, I can't go empty-handed with. I might not be very happy with that, but let us see the little we are doing. We are reasonable people, and just at the end of the day, reasonable people, majority of us. So we're going to say, okay, yes, this money might mean this in 2024, but we've seen the effort that the state governor has done to, because the money, you cannot, okay, can you do 10,000 people this year? Okay, we know there's money doesn't have value. We'll wait, you can spread it 10. In the next 5 years, you've done. But for you to just seize the hands and Kimbo and say, the money doesn't have value, then, I mean, it's like, it's very unbelievable. And of course, let me also mention that, one of the factors that affected the naira badly is the belief that, the speculation that now that governors are getting more money, they are taking that more money to go and buy more dollars. And that has put pressure. That's a factor.
The whole round tripping business.
That's the factor. And that's one reason why, the other day, DSS stormed Zone 4, where most of the bureau charges are. I know no matter what, DSS cannot go on a charade on a wild goose chase. There must be data, there must be
some substance
for them to say, let us storm this place where most of these people who help these people, so if instead of using that money to go to bureau the change, give it to the people, either as cash transfer or supporting their business. There was a time the Kano State Governor gave some in one kind of youth empowerment scheme. He gave people milk, bread, to start Mishai. I said no. Some of the problems, there's some people who
I recall. I think it was 2 years back. It's a bit.
I think I don't want to mention. So I said no. Everybody's operating at their own level. Not everybody that needs scholarship. Not everybody that needs money. So sincerely, if you give some people that Mishai money, their lives, if you go and meet them after this year, say that business, I have 3 branches now, or I'm still managing it, and my children are going to school. They are feeding. They drink from the milk. So you meet people at their own level. So whatever the money, some people are arguing that has lost value. Whatever that value can buy for the people, give it to them, and let's start from there. I think that's what we need to do in terms of value. But I think it's quite early. Like, going back to your question, we are still studying it because I think even the last meeting that the president had with the governors, I have a feeling that he told them some of these things because, they came out and they presented the normal formal thing. But I have a feeling that the president is telling them what intelligence is telling, what people, feedback from other mechanisms, MDAs at the federal level, and then maybe the media. And I'll say, you guys, you have more money. You can't leave all this work to me.
Yeah, because actually for the president to succeed, I know it's a federal system that we operate, but the states have their somehow level of control over that spot. And for it to be seen as successful, whatever move the president is making, the states, they need to be buying from the state. It doesn't matter what the central is doing. If the states do not buy into it, it won't work.
The part of development is the bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
And that's why some of us will always tell you, when they talk about some countries, you say, no, go and compare rural America to those countries you're hailing. Go and compare rural Germany, the largest economy in Europe. That's where you see that the development is bottom-up. That, probably the same quality of healthcare in rural Germany, in rural America is almost the same. Maybe you might not be a specialist that they will refer you to. But there's ambulance service, there are good schools. Even if you go up in rural America, you speak very well,
Yeah.
Do you understand? And the security sheriff is, knows what to do. He's not going to take bribe and these things. At best can, write the FBI or write his, I state and help I need for the investigation. But he is, trustworthy. So that's what we need to do. That the development was bottom up, especially in Nigeria where 5% of Nigerian are well. So you're not really you're just thinking, pour a cup of water into my situations. So the local government and the states governors need to ask the questions. Either we have to ask, you say, what happened when we were very unhappy. If they said there's so much insecurity, he quickly tracked on. So the people must,
Houston Wike must be praised for being really in touch with the grassroots, and palliative will not be an exception. That's what he wrote from Rubochi. Hafsat Mazu, we see you. In regards to my guest, yes, you see that. Ben Nwanze, I see your comment also. Gbenga Additional says, all right, thank you, Gbenga, you're very kind. Victor Sule, is it possible to, okay, you can see my guest right now. Sorry about that initially. Asu Peter says, your guest is really Nigeria. Is Nigeria really working? The governors, the ministers, the DG, are they appointed to work or to make for themselves and their unborn children, because the signs are not showing that people are working in the country? And let's see here. Good afternoon, Kim, and to our guest, Busade back of Asokoro village. Seriously, my neighbor issue and matter is, okay, this is... Busade, we'll leave that for later. Michael Lord says, I've been trying to listen to your station online, but it's not connecting. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Kim. Lukman Adebanjo from Zamani. Fubara, I think he's just being cowardly. It's not just enough when it comes to politics. He's supposed to back down initially. He's not meant to back down initially on his attempt to fight and end Wike's political dominance in Rivers State. Well, I guess says at least we should commend him for even saying it, because I can't recall in recent history politician even putting it out, vocalizing it that I can step aside for peace. It's not, aside from Goodluck Jonathan, who said no blood of anyone is what is political ambition. Goodluck gave up his office for peace in Nigeria, but where is the peace today? Says Fitzgerald from Airport Road. And Inform Akpan say your network is now okay. Those who are trying to listen to us online, so sorry about that. But you can join on YouTube and Facebook. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. If you can't listen via our app, please just join the conversation on YouTube. We're streaming live, okay? It's at Nigeria Info Abuja. Sylvester Amedu from Kabusa says, the man that sang Water No Get Enemy did not see this coming. The way we are going, water also become an enemy. I said of the show talking about the need to stay hydrated instead of the price of water. Let's take a few phone calls and we'll get to the third story. 0700 951 0000. Hello.
Hello, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Go ahead, sir.
I think Kimberly, you have saying my say that make a
Donatus, would love to hear what you have to say, but the connection is really bad. Can you please call back? Please call back. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to our guest.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me loud and clear?
She can hear you.
Yes, I can.
What our guest say is the truth, most especially with the situation. She made mention of Niger State government buying tractors. Yes, it's a good thing, but a tractor can't work without security. In this country, most of this food being consumed in this country is being provided by these local farmers. And most of the local farmers has been chased from their ancestral home. Yesterday, we made mention of that some states have to be paying for bandit in order to harvest their crops. It happened in Kaduna, it happened in Zamfara, it happened in Sokoto, it happened in other places. So all this hula baloo about food shortages and insecurity until government provides physical security. Yes, now the governor are getting more money. And what are they doing with the money? Now the subsidy is gone, and they have added allocation to them. And our guest is mention of the local government, the local government, and from local to the federal. How are the local government independent? The local government are being pocketed by these governors. Some of the state doesn't even do local government elections. They do administrative appointment. And whatever they get from the federal allocation, they will now pinch small and give them in order to pay salary. So the locals are no freedom. It was during the military administration that I see the effect of the local governments. We see them working in the rural area, in the community. But since the come of democracy, tell me the local government that has been working. So most of the government pocket the local government, if until what they decide, what they give the local government, then they can be able to afford. So with all this, until local government have their own autonomy, I'm telling you, we keep running in cycle. Thank you for giving me the privilege. Nagodi.
Thank you very much, Salasi. We appreciate your input. Hello?
Hello, Auntie Kimberly. Donald is coming back.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just say one day that say that make and go umuna ko in the if I try to save my community and they refuse to be saved, I save my family. If I try to save my family, they refuse to be, I save myself. So I mean, for Kubarak, that is the best of school. You understand? I think whatever a man gives to a man is for me. You understand? I believe in love, come on. It will not last. Everybody will know what is there. And for our governor to buy tractor, it's right. But the former governor, Mr. Inoa, he bought grader, he bought excavator, he bought a roller. I'm telling you, each local government in the Niger state, I'm thinking no last. Even some of the local government have said the vote. So there is not a maintenance value. You understand? They don't have that kind of maintenance culture at all. They cannot take care of policies. They should just keep it as Brother have just said. That's the best way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Donatus. Hello? Yes, welcome.
Thank you, my sister. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to our guest.
Good afternoon.
I greet all the previous scholars. Now, look at how many states that they cannot pay their salary before they come to, they have to come to Abuja to pay, including the Papa Esa Akwaibom with the 13% derivation that they are collecting. Can you see all these our governors? I think we need to channel our anger to these people. Look at them. And the Delta State, last month, collect 47 billion allocation. A lot of IGR. All of them, they don't have I don't want to say maybe they don't have brain to make money for their state until they come. Look at that KDL now. Go and check where did he get the money. It will be our what they call subsidy money that they are sharing for themselves. They are the one who are enjoying it. God will help this country. What we need now, any one of us in Nigeria, we need to come out and report because this thing is getting out of. Look at the electricity matter that we are talking about. Do they? They are the one who will not allow this electricity to work because they are the owner. They are the seller of all this solar. They are the owner of all this big generators.
Who are they?
They are the owner. So unless the government can help us to revise it, and who are the government? It's the same people who put us into the mess. God will help this country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's throw in another story. I see a lot of you itching to call, but let's touch on this one. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has said that the 22.7 trillion naira printed by the Central Bank of Nigeria through Ways and Means overdraft for the federal government of Nigeria from 2015 to 2023 under former President Muhammadu Buhari landed Nigeria into hyperinflation that we are suffering from today. Edun, who disclosed this yesterday during an interface with the Senate Committee on Finance, said during the period, the printing of naira in trillions was carried out without matching it with productivity. He said the consequence of the 8 years of printing money without productivity is high inflation confronting the country today. 2 weeks ago, the Senate resolved to probe the 30 trillion naira ways and means spent by Buhari-led federal government, which according to it was recklessly spent. It further stated that reckless spending of the overdraft collected from the Central Bank of Nigeria under Godwin Emefiele largely accounted for the food and security crisis the country is facing. The Red Chamber then resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate on what the 30 trillion naira ways and means were spent on by the past administration, since detail of such spending were deliberately not made available to the National Assembly. So as at Wednesday, Edun said, we talked about inflation and you have to help solve it. Where did it come from? It came from 8 years of just printing money. And I recall vividly, the governor of Edo State, Obaseki, was like the lone voice in the wilderness, crying at the top of his lungs. They are printing money in Abuja. The CBN came out and told us to disregard him. It was like a crazy person was talking. And, well, it apparently what happened, trillions were printed, and now we're dealing with the after effect of it. But what was the money used for? I don't expect you to answer it, because even the CBN itself does not even know.
Yeah, the current man doesn't even know. After taking over, how many months has it been there? So it's fresh. So you should know. I think about 4 weeks, 5. I think when the Edu Gates, became news, I did a short post and I said, ideally, if we're in a decent society that you really care about Nigerians, the living and unborn, you should do a thorough probe of the 8 years of the Buhari administration. There's been a pattern with the CBN governor, with the current CBN governor, and that pattern has been like, he has told us, in different ways that this country was really mismanaged. The fiscal and monetary policies, especially the economy, was really mismanaged under President Muhammadu Buhari. And I totally agree with him. Like I said, I did a post weeks back, and I mentioned, having covered the National Assembly, the 9th Assembly, the 8th Assembly, 9th Assembly, and the 10th Assembly, the current Assembly, I knew, I'm talking as a senior journalist, I'm not talking, I knew a few senators, because most of these decisions are taken in what you call an executive session, where everybody is asked out and it's only the senators who participate. So, and there were a few senators who fought, but there were so few who fought these ways and means the way the approval was given. And one of them spoke recently, that's Senator Ali Ndume Bonu, and said, one of them said, at least give us a list of what you want to do with this money you're printing. And Edu said, it's simple economics. Once you have done economics, maybe at SS1 level, you know that when there's too much naira, chasing too few goods, that's what causes inflation. And now we're at inflation rate of 28 point, I think almost 30, 28 point something or thereabouts. It is astonishing. It is bewildering. And it's at the same time that government decided to float the naira. At the same time, that government has removed petrol subsidy. At the same time, the government is giving governors at FAC allocation, and they are worsening the situation in the typical Nigerian leadership style, myopic, very ostrich, like they put their head in the sand and they don't care what's happening around them, and they are big behind it out like the ostrich. It's so worrisome. And I'm one of those that I don't think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a moral authority. I don't think he has moral to ask us for understanding, because like he said in Abeokuta, Emilokon, which means it is my turn. He brought Buhari without his support. He said it in that speech coincidentally. Buhari had not become president. And as the only man that was called national leader of APC throughout the 8 years of Buhari, it's just a few times he criticized Buhari government. And for somebody of his caliber, who is supposed to be an intellectual, who ran Lagos for 8 years, who was the ROL of Nadeco, he's somebody that should have, been able to say, these ways are some very important interventions. And one of those interventions should have been saying, these ways are means you are printing so much money without productivity. How many, instead the big companies, the man members are leaving Nigeria instead of staying back. So you're printing so much money and you're not producing with it for that naira to be spent. So that naira is being converted to dollars onto the great detriment of the economy. The only hope we have, let us be hopeful, because what is life without hope, is that the Senate, which still has the former Senate president as a member, and he even came in that Punch article that you read, and he said he should forget about the past and talk about the present. And some of the dramatists personnel who also were in their executive sessions that approved this kind of, ways. And some of them are still members. So how would the Senate get to the root of this problem? Would they be able to name names? And I also saw that they said, they're also going to probe the Anchor's Borough scheme. So I hope that the Senate is not trying to make this court of public opinion trial of the former CBN governor. Let him face trial properly in the court. So they should
they don't take on too much at once. And
they should also look apportion blame to themselves and ask themselves why, as the highest legislative body in the land, that they could approve such, demands from the presidency to the detriment and even the most, actually, unless there's one student who is serious, and you explain what, ways and means. And ideally, a senator, lawmaker, if you don't understand issues, you call a consultant. That is part of why you're being paid. Come and explain this to me. Some of them, they just need to sit down with you and give some documents, and you understand what that. So they cannot claim ignorance.
Well, there's some that people perceive as a lot of waste under the last administration. You mentioned one in passing, the Anchor Boroughs program. Intentions were brilliant, but the management, particularly the first tranche of it, I remember I followed up a premium time investigative report on how the money just disappeared, went into political farmers' hands. No account and no refund. They said, they thought it was, a generous gift from the government to help agriculture, and no account. Maybe they perfected it eventually. We saw some improvement eventually. The trader money also had its own plenty gaps where people say, how much did you give out? How did it go? Was it to give out? So there were a lot of, the intention was social intervention. But then it left room for a lot of opaqueness, no accountability per se for you to say how much government spent on some of these things, and quite a lot of other spending that the books are not adding up right now. So will the National Assembly have the gumption to call for a thorough panel setup to investigate some of these things? Well, we've seen thousands of talks and very little action in the past. Let's go on a very quick break for the news at the top of the hour. We'll continue our conversation in a bit. Stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info. Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.